everyone, and welcome once again to the vast and ominous comic book vault. It's time for new acquisitions. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Alex, superhero enthusiast.
Alex, how you doing, man? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me.
This week, as always, we're going to review lots of comics for you, and this was a big, heavy week. There's a whole bunch of stuff that came out this week. Really, really good week. Lots of really cool stuff. I'm very excited to get into it. As always, I want to say thanks to Elite Comics in Overland Park, Kansas for helping us out with the show. If you're ever in the Kansas City area, go check out Elite Comics. They're fantabulous, and they've been really great for helping us out with the show. If you're watching live right now, hello, welcome. Thanks for being here, and we will interact with you some a little bit later in the show. The Q&A is up on the side. If you're, or I guess on the side. The thing I'm looking at is not what you're looking at. The Q&A for Google Plus is up. If you can see that, you want to ask us questions anytime during the show, feel free to put a question up, and I'll be able to scroll through that list when we get to the end, and we do our little Q&A segment at the end. Our open forum. You can also send questions via Twitter, that's at GeekFolution, or as a personal message on GeekFolution on YouTube. Let's jump straight into it, shall we? We're going to begin with Marvel books this week, and we are going to try to roll a little bit quicker this time because we have so many books to review this week. The stuff that Alex and I are both reviewing together, of course, those reviews will be slightly longer. The stuff we're doing singularly, I think we'll try to roll a little bit more rapid fire. Alex, what would you like to start with, sir? Let's go to Marvel and pick us something we both read.
Let's start with Daredevil, since that's always a good book.
Let's do so.
Awesome. And that's a great cover. This one I guess picked up from last time, and what's this guy's name? The Shroud?
Shroud, yeah.
Shroud. I always want to say the Spectre. I'm like, no, that's a different character.
That's a different guy, yeah. It's not Mark Spector either. That's an even different guy.
Well, him and Matt make their great escape from the Owl, and there's some fun stuff with the Shroud later on, and him going back against the Owl, I'll just kind of let you pick up from here. I'm just sort of refreshing my memory on this book because I read so much stuff this week. It's not sticking in there.
I had exactly the same thing. Well, what I am really enjoying with where Daredevil's at right now with this whole Shroud thing, and just what it's been doing in general, is this idea of playing with blindness as a superhero, and because Mark Waid has always done stuff with that, and now I feel like he's really jumped back on that after his last big giant arc, with really playing with what that's like and all these different sorts of notions of sight and what exactly that means. And when you get to the end of this issue, there's this crazy science machine that delivers information in a totally new sort of way that gives people this new sort of sight. And I just think it's kind of neat, all the different ways that he's playing with that notion. I also like that he's making Owlsley a kind of sympathetic villain, and he's making him scary. And anybody that can take a character like that and make him kind of scary, I'm always sort of impressed with, because he's goofy. And I also like that he's gone all the way back to the beginning of Daredevil lore and reminded us that the Owl was kind of the first big villain that Daredevil fought. I had forgotten about that. Waid has always been really good at mixing all of the major Daredevil continuity together and borrowing from different pieces of it and reminding you what the big history is, but then making it new and fresh again. I feel like the Shroud is like this dark mirror for Matt Murdock. He's what Matt would be. I just thought of this. He's basically what Matt Murdock would be if Daredevil had fear. That's kind of how I read him, and he does all these horrifying things that Matt would never even consider doing, and he's also a coward, as we see at the end of this, and I won't give away why that is, but there's something that he's willing to try that Matt would never do, because he's a coward and Matt isn't, and Matt's been all these dark places, but he's never let it change him, and I think that's really, really cool stuff. So I don't know. I don't think this is the end of the Shroud. I think we're going to see a little bit more of this guy, because I think Waid has more to say with him.
Yeah, I agree, and that was definitely my favorite scene. This issue was the final one, and I won't spoil too much, but Matt really just kind of chews him out for the whole cowardice and stuff, and says like, "I wouldn't have sunk so low."
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that you bring up that point about like he's sort of Daredevil if Daredevil had fear, and I kind of see him almost a little bit as if Mark Waid hadn't taken over this book, this is probably what like Daredevil would be doing right now, because Mark Waid sort of cheered him up a little bit.
That's interesting. Yeah, like what would what would he have been like after? What was that event with the hand that I just absolutely hated? Shadowland, and you had Shadowland, and then you had that terrible, terrible like mini series right after Shadowland that was one more Daredevil road trip trying to find himself story, but it was really awful. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that is more than likely what he would have been like. I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah, me too.
As always, that's this book is still in a really great place, and by the end of it, it looks like we're finally going to get the history of the faking Foggy's death thing, which is good because that needs to happen already. I want to know about that. Next up, let's talk about Silver Surfer #3. When I brought this home, my kid immediately said, "Why is there a giant monkey?"
Why wouldn't there be?
This is absolutely hilarious. I have since the beginning of this loved the quirky cosmic stuff. That's always been a big love of mine. I was immediately first issue reminded of both Doctor Who and more importantly Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it has kept that kind of spirit. I really appreciated that the cover isn't just a silly quirky cover, but something. I mean, this exact thing doesn't happen in the issue, but there is a toy monkey with symbols, and it's kind of the big artifact that they're after this issue, which is hilarious. And it's this whole like silly cosmic thing of there's a thing that you can't that a human being can't understand. So his Silver Surfer's female companion in this is like, oh, this is I'm seeing this toy monkey when I look at this because that's the random object my brain has chosen to show it to me. I was surprised that the arc is already over here, with as big and crazy as this whole thing has been with, I mean, where we started with Silver Surfer gets pulled in to save this whole crazy world, and then at the end of this, that whole world essentially crumbles into nothing. I was surprised that happens in 4 issues, and thought it was maybe a little bit fast. That's my only criticism of this is that I thought that there was a little bit of rushing there, but most of it happened last issue, because I kind of thought that the way that she broke out of the whole prison thing was too easy. But I don't know. Into this, I thought it was great. What did you think?
I love this, and it's weird for me as a big Silver Surfer fan, with this book being nothing like traditional Silver Surfer, how it still totally works and feels like that character, and Slott writes him as that character. He speaks like Silver Surfer, but he's just thrown into this weird kind of quirky situation, and I love that. It totally works, and I love there's an explanation in here about just kind of the more sciencey sort of stuff, and he just explains everything. It's the power cosmic, and Dawn, who's I guess his companion. We might as well just use Doctor Who terms.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember her name right off.
Yeah, she asks him all these questions, and like, how can I breathe in space? How am I not freezing? And he's like, power cosmic, the power cosmic. Just explains everything, and that's perfect. It's the kind of wibbly wobbly, spacey wacy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. And
I'm okay with it too because this is not science fiction. This is science fantasy. I mean, I think it's important to throw that terminology out there that is what it is before it's anything else, and that it's the kind of story that has conceit and it knows what it is. So it's got some really cool human ideas, and that's what's driving it. And then the rest of it, we can just be kind of quirky and fun with. And as long as it has an internal logic, and it does, you know what those those things do. And again, like with Doctor Who, you know what the screwdriver can do. You know what the TARDIS can do. It doesn't matter that it's not. It doesn't seem possible because it's in a world where it is, and you have a conceit, and then you run with it. So yeah, I love stuff like that, especially because it's clever, and that's my favorite kind of stuff. So.
I mean, it's a story about a guy who flies around in space on a surfboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how ridiculous is that, right? So I'm totally fine with them going that direction. I actually disagree that this was too fast. I like that they're kind of doing short arcs, or hopefully they're going to continue to do this. I think it's smart. We get way too many long, drawn-out 6 or 12 issue stories now. I just like something a little bit quicker paced, especially since it is, monthly book. We're only getting it once a month, so we can kind of it'll feel faster that way, and I like that.
That's fair, and I like that in general, but I guess I'm mostly saying that just in the context of this particular story, because I thought the Empiricon was a really cool place, and I didn't really want to get away from it this fast.
That's maybe fair. It is an interesting place. Yeah, they could have done I could see how they could do a really long arc with that place, and explore every aspect of it, but I still feel like the story worked. Obviously, the villain who's in this, he's going to make a comeback, and I'm really curious to see how that plays out, because he's kind of neat and very visually unique. Like, he's got 2 mouths stacked on top of one another. Really, really cool. And I loved in this how Silver Surfer defeats him by basically turning into the Three Stooges.
Yeah, I resisted that a little bit.
Oh, come on.
I didn't care for that. I especially didn't care. Okay, so Silver Surfer kind of learns this from watching TV on Earth, and that's funny. And the guy immediately responds with a line that sounded like it came from Three Stooges, and that was going too far. That was my complaint about it, where I was like, Slott, I think you're being a little bit self-indulgent here, but that was just me. I don't know. It's funny, but I didn't like that part that much.
Oh, fair enough. We'll meet in the middle then.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know. I like the incredulous Zed, partly because the word incredulous is awesome, and I like how you said, well, here's the villain that's going to come back, because at the beginning of this, I don't think we really had a sense that he was going to be the villain of this piece. He seemed like kind of this misguided character that is encroaching upon people's lives for the sake of the greater good. And at the end of this, it turns out that he is a little bit more sinister than that. And I kind of like that, because immediately with a name like Zed, and I guess this comes from just my Power Rangers background, but with a name like Zed, you would expect he's going to be your big be-all and no bad guy. Zed, it's the end of the alphabet. And then it turns out to kind of be that. And yeah, I hope this guy comes back, and maybe a couple of times. I want to know if there's some kind of, because I hadn't thought of this until just now, I want to know if there's some kind of symbolic idea behind the 2 mouths stacked on top of each other. I'm wondering if that means something, and I'm not immediately catching on to it.
I hope so. And can I just say, as a Canadian, it was great to hear an American say the last letter of the alphabet is Z and not Z.
Yeah. You're welcome. All right, moving right along. What do we got next, man?
We have. Did you read Original Sin this week?
I did. Did you?
Yeah. I got caught up on it.
Let's do it then.
All I really remember is the ending, which is incredibly spoilerish. I guess there's some, because I read the past 2 issues just before this one, so they all kind of blur together for me.
We can just talk about it in general, where it's at right now, because as of last week, it didn't seem like you were going to necessarily stay on it. But then I told you about it, and then you were like, maybe I'll read it. What do you feel about it now that you've read up to now?
I still feel like this wasn't at all the book I was expecting it to be, and kind of in a negative way.
Okay.
I don't hate this by any means. It's just not really, I guess, what I was looking for with this event. They revealed something. I won't say what it is. And I'm just so confused about it at this point. I don't know how any of this fits together yet.
Yeah, and when they finally put all the pieces together, we might go, oh, that's cool. I don't want to get in, halfway into something like this and say, well, because I don't exactly know. Actually, I don't even know how long the series is going, but 4 issues in. I don't want to get 4 issues in and be like, well, because I don't know how it all fits together, that's a problem yet. I do feel like that the mystery is enticing enough that I want to keep going. So I think that it's got me hooked enough to keep reading it without it completely understanding what's going on. Having said that, the big reveal at the end that you're talking about really left fieldy, and not. I mean, not with the characters that have been like pushing this book along since the beginning, but just you're reading a story about that's a murder mystery about the death of the Watcher, and the last thing you would expect would be we're gonna make a big deal out of some SHIELD stuff you didn't know about. Really? Like that's what this book is about? Oh, okay. My big complaint about it right now is too many characters. Just too many characters. Why does this have to be about 50 different people? I still don't understand that.
Especially too, some of them with like Wolverine, for instance. I thought he was a villain right now. Like, why is he in this book with that costume? A lot of other characters, like the Punisher's in this, I kind of maybe understand why they brought him in, but it's like, it's more or less, it just boils down to, like, he knows about guns. So,
yeah, you're absolutely right about that, because it's like, okay, well, somebody killed the Watcher, presumably with a gun, and then somebody killed this living planet with a gun, which, by the way, I thought was a really cool idea. How people kill a living planet with a gun. I thought that was a great idea. Like I said, the mystery stuff in this is great. I think, I'm going to say this, the story so far, the actual plot that we've read so far, I think is really good. Who it's focused on, I find myself questioning, and I don't like that I don't really have anybody to really sink my teeth into. I guess, and I had the exact same problem with Age of Ultron. I'm feeling deja vu from Age of Ultron, where it wasn't until well toward the end that I finally felt like I had a couple of singular characters to really latch onto and go, these are the people I care about in this series. This has that Marvel event issue of, we've got to, well, and I was going to say of we've got to throw everybody together. It's not that. It's like Future's End, because it's let's take everybody that we're not really doing anything with anywhere else. At least it's not characters nobody cares about because their books got canceled. It's like here's a bunch of characters that we're not really doing a lot with, but that we want to strategically make a big deal out of, mostly because of other media things, right? There is some of that going on. There is, there's some Guardian stuff because Gamora shows up, and no one should be surprised about that. But then, like, we've got to have, like, Black Widow in here because we try to do more things with her now, because she's in the movies and stuff. And yeah, there's some of that. You're right. Punisher is kind of weird. It's sort of like, well, he's not usually in events. Let's throw him in an event. Doctor Strange makes sense to be here because he's a big cosmic guy, and this is a big cosmic problem. So he understands the machinations of the universe. So there are certain characters that you don't see all the time that do make a lot of sense to be here. And I'm not saying that this should be a book about like the big A-team. That it's okay, but like, I don't know. There's too many of them. Why is Mark Spector here? Why is T'Challa here? I don't know. I don't understand that. So I don't know. And again, it might be like Age of Ultron, where eventually we'll find out why these people are here, and it'll make more sense. But right now, I'm just sort of like, God, cut this cast in half.
Yeah, really. Way too many characters. And yeah, like you said, like I'm enjoying the actual story. It's just like it's crammed so full of people. And again, like just conceptually, this wasn't really what I wanted, and that's fine. I don't expect them to read my mind and say, like, okay, I'm going to make this Marvel comic for Alex. But, yeah, I don't know. It's okay. Like, I'm curious to see where this goes, and I'm going to keep reading because the mystery is intriguing enough. But I'm just not blown away by it.
One of the best things you can do in an event, especially, but really any kind of story, is give someone something that is totally contrary to what they thought it was going to be and what maybe they were hoping for, but then they love it even more because it blindsided them and it was fantastic. This isn't that yet. It could turn into that, but stories are about characters, and there's only one or two people that I even remotely care about right now. It's like if you handed me this as an outline without any characters in it and said, here are the plot points of what's going to happen, I would be enjoying it as much as I am reading it through these characters, and that's a problem for me. I do love all of the witty banter and stuff in it. I expected this to be a lot heavier than it is, and Jason Aaron is always really good with comedy, and there is a lot of really great levity in this, which has been surprising me. So I don't know, it's good, but I'm waiting for it to get fantastic because I think it has the potential.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I think that's maybe in some ways the best part of this is just the character interactions, and everybody when they speak, it feels like that character. So I can't really complain in that respect.
No, and I know that sounds like a weird, contradictory almost thing to say when you're like, well, the problem with this is character. Well, the problem isn't characterization. The problem is I don't know why these people are here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Well,
but yeah, like Black Panther sounds like Black Panther, but why is he here?
Yeah, exactly. Oh well, we'll see where it goes. Yeah, strange roster. Next up, Uncanny X-Men number 22, and this is interesting. Bendis is really in X-Men right now, finally making a lot happen at once. There's a whole lot of things that are being paid off all at once between this and the all-new book, and this is one of those that's kind of hard to talk about without giving too much stuff away, but the Mystique is pretending to be Dazzler thing with S.H.I.E.L.D. is kind of paying off and finished with this issue, and we're finally finding out what's been going on with S.H.I.E.L.D. building the Sentinels, and everybody at the end of this, I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, finally realizes who's been manipulating whom. That all wrapped up a little quicker than I thought it would. I don't think it's too fast. With Bendis, I'm actually impressed that that's done already, really. I could have gone forever, but like, there is a lot by the end of this of, oh wait, you mean this person was manipulating me to do this, and I actually was not fighting who I thought I was, and so I don't know. I'm kind of glad some of that is over, so we can move on from it. But like where all that intrigue stuff is still really good, and we get to see what the whole deal was with the Sentinels, and also there's some stuff finally about why certain people's powers are wonky and not working right. Finally, we were explaining that stuff. The actual answer to it was weird to me. I mean, it works, it's good, but I thought it was going to have a lot more to do with AVX. What am I missing?
I thought it was too, and I'm okay with it because I like the idea, and I kind of think the idea is possibly genius. Like, yeah. I'm just so astounded why nobody thought of that before, and I'm really struggling here because this is possibly my favorite issue of this book in a really long time. I just thought it was amazing, but I can't really talk about anything that was really cool in this because it's all incredibly spoilerish. All the reveals, all the interesting lines kind of give away stuff.
I will say
this one blew me away.
I do think though that whole explanation is a little bit convenient. Just for when it happened. There's something we're missing, and I really don't think that Bendis has given us all of it yet. Like I kind of want to trust him on it, because at the beginning of this book, he was really kind of making a big deal out of something happened to certain characters during AVX, and so maybe this just goes back to all that. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, again, we're gonna have to talk about this cryptically, but maybe that's what it is. Maybe it was that idea was conceived of because of what was going on with the Phoenix and with Cyclops and stuff. That actually makes a lot of sense. So maybe that's what was going on. I don't know. And then who was behind certain things? We have yet another a character, another version of a character that we didn't know was around. I will say that for some people, including myself, because it's been so long, I was sort of like, oh man, I sure wish I'd read every single issue of every X-Men book ever before I started reading Bendis' X-Men. There's a little bit of that, because boy, does he go back to everything.
Mm-hmm. I will say, since you did talk about the Dazzler thing, she has a great line at the end of this, where Maria Hill says, like, you're an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and she just turns away from her, and, like, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm an X-Man. I just thought that was such a great line at the end of this. And as far as the thing that you mentioned, and we have to refer to cryptically, I loved how nonchalant everyone was about that.
Yeah, me too. By this point, they would be, right? Like,
exactly. X-Men is so crazy that this is just normal for them.
Our lives now. This is the life we live now. Yeah, it's hilarious.
I liked too that a character who disappeared, and I don't know if we can talk about this, a couple issues ago, has come back, and kind of saved the day a little bit. And I don't know, I like that character and I like their powers a lot, so I thought that was really cool to see.
I forgot all about that guy. Let's go ahead and move on to some DC stuff. Or actually, let's stay in Marvel, because I think we both probably have. Let's see. Do you have any Marvel stuff that we didn't review together?
Yes.
Okay, you go ahead and do that, because everything else I have is other companies in DC now that I'm looking at it.
Okay. Did you want me to cover Thor at all? Because I know you typically read that, but you missed it this week.
Yeah, so once again, for whatever reason, I go into the comic shop and I didn't see Thor. I keep being behind on Thor, and I'm not behind on it. I read the last one, finally, and now I'm behind on it again. So anyway, yeah, go ahead and briefly review that.
I'll just say this is sort of the endish of this story. I won't say too much because I don't want to spoil it for you, but I am just constantly astounded by how political Jason Aaron is allowed to be in this book. Because the first arc was all about religion and atheism and stuff, and this one's all about environmentalism, and you have Roxxon, which is this evil oil corporation, and you've got this kind of non-linear thing going on where there's a future Thor fighting Galactus on Earth, and like he's basically saying all of these companies that are ruining the environment, they're like our version of Galactus, and that he's able to get away with that in like a mainstream comic is just kind of amazing, and kind of hats off to Marvel for allowing him to do that. Yeah, I don't. I'm just trying to think of things I can talk about that won't spoil it for you, but it continues on from last time, where the last one picked up, or last one left off, him getting the weapon that was from the first arc. He uses that in this one, so I'll just kind of say that. There's a lot of great talk about Thor in this, and like all of the titles that he has, and much of this book is just that, and that's just great writing stuff. That's a lot of fun. And yeah, I don't know, this is a lot of good action too. So I'm just sort of really talking around with this issue, but I'll just sort of leave it there.
Well, it's cool. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I totally forgot to. I totally didn't see it this week. Do you have any other Marvel stuff?
Yeah, my last book was Marvel number 7. Or Marvel number 7.
No, I keep thinking about trying that book, Alex. Marvel
it's
now.
It's really good. It's Marvel.
Yeah, it's all new. It's Marvel Now's all new Marvel number 7.
I'm reviewing it now. It was actually The Punisher number 7.
Oh, okay.
At the end of the previous issue, he had saved the day from Electro and the evil drug cartel, but he got shot by the Howling Commandos who had been tracking him down. This is him. He managed to survive somehow. I don't understand. The Punisher regularly seems to get shot in the chest and just survive from it, because he's the Punisher. He knows how to take a bullet, I guess. And he makes his way down to Mexico, and he gets stitched up by somebody, but of course it's Mexico and people need money and stuff, and some of these people who sew people up on the black market are not necessarily the most reputable people that you would want to interact with. And they sell him to some other big drug kingpin guy down there who kind of beats him up, tortures him. There's just some fun Punisher stuff in that respect. He gets some good lines that continues on with this, almost like it's Punisher as an 80s action movie kind of a thing that I really liked. But then that guy sells him to somebody else. And I won't say who it is. It's a character that we know from a different comic. I don't know that the Punisher and this guy have interacted before, but they have similar iconography, I'll just say that much. And they've also captured another...
Is it Crossbones? Oh, okay. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe people can let us know, like, if those two characters have interacted before, because I don't know if they have. But there's another American that they've captured, and him and the Punisher escape. And there's kind of a funny scene where he's like, "Why do these other guys have Punisher costumes?" And it's like, no, it's his gear that they took from him. And they escape at the end of this, and I really didn't expect this book to go this way. I'm really curious to see where this goes and how. I'm assuming he's going to get back to LA at some point because they set up a lot of stuff there. But this is really good. It's classic Punisher, but a little bit more fun. If you're into that kind of thing, I definitely recommend it.
Important safety tip, kids. Don't get yourself sewn up on the black market. Okay, next up, we're going to go on to some DC stuff. We're going to begin with the one DC book that Alex and I both have together, which is Batman Eternal number 11. And once again, as this book frequently tends to do, it sort of goes off on its own direction. And no, I mean, it deals with a lot of stuff that the book has been dealing with, but not the most immediate thing the last issue ended with. This thing has a tendency to do a lot of that. And so this one is mainly focusing on the idea of, if memory serves, because I read a lot of stuff this week too. Yeah, the notion of like really rich brats who don't really deserve what they have. That's kind of the big theme of this issue, and there's a lot of that. And some of it is, and this is what I liked about it. Some of it is like these really rich people that got to where they got, and they don't deserve it, and not really through any fault of their own, and they're not very intelligent, and they're not very smart, and they're just lucky, and then they think they're the best thing ever because they have more than other people. And then you have other people who have that reputation with someone, and they don't deserve it, like Alfred. And I kind of liked that we saw both sides of that. So his daughter has come into the picture, and by the way, so far, I don't like her. I don't like this whole thread. It strikes me as really typical teen angst stuff, and really typical. Your kid comes out of nowhere that you didn't think you'd have to deal with ever again. And I don't know that we need this for every character that is old enough to have children. I feel a lot. I feel sometimes like we do this, where it's like, if we have a character that is older, they must have a kid that either they didn't know about or we didn't know about. And I'm like, now, did we have to go there without like just to give him a thing to do, just to give him a big character thing? I don't know. Maybe later I'll like it better, but right now I'm not really digging it. But anyway, but the way it plays thematically with those other ideas, and the kind of parallels and counters to what's going on with Stephanie Brown and her father, I kind of liked doing that in the same issue. The thing that left the biggest impression on me was kind of a minor throwaway thing, really, which was the moment where Stephanie Brown is watching her father hosting an old game show. And he freaks out on this this rich person because they're doing this like trivia bowl thing for charity, and he freaks out on this person for not knowing anything about anything and acting like that she's important just because she's rich. I really liked that whole thing, and Stephanie just sitting there like, oh, Dad. I thought it was really cool that she felt embarrassed for her father from this thing from like 20 years earlier or however long ago it had been. and he's trying to kill her. Like in the context of that. I don't know. I really like that. The thing I resisted the most this issue was the art. It is hard to look at for me. It's too cartoony. It's too almost like political cartoon looking, and it struck me as I don't know if you know this artist. This is Ian Bertram. I don't immediately recognize that name or know him from anything, but I felt like it was an attempt at doing a Chris Burnham from Batman Incorporated, because a lot of Batman Incorporated characters are in this. That was my suspicion, was that he was just kind of trying to do, and it was like a really exaggerated Chris Burnham, and I don't love Chris Burnham's art all that much in the first place. So to see like a really exaggerated version of that in this book, once again jarring me and kind of taking me out of the whole thing, because every issue has to look entirely different. I cannot imagine sitting down and reading this thing all together. And it's just week to week, so like it hasn't even been that long since the last time I read this book. Anyway, I don't know. Do you agree with that? Was the art as hard to look at to you as it was for me?
I actually like the art. I just maybe question whether or not it's suited to this book. I think if there's like a solo spoiler book or a solo Batgirl book, this art style might actually be really appropriate.
Well, yeah, you're right. It was an appropriate thing. I mean, I'm not even saying that the art is bad. And that's somewhat subjective anyway. But just for this material, I wasn't sure about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Of all the issues of Batman Inc. so far, maybe I think it was the most appropriate for this issue, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's really weird how this book jumps around, not just like between different artists who have similar styles, but between artists who have incredibly different styles. And that can be incredibly jarring, especially reading week to week. I loved the theme of fathers in this issue, and I thought it was kind of neat that it came out like around Father's Day. This one too. I don't know if that was just a coincidence or what, but I thought that was neat. Yeah, I don't know. I really resist the Batman Inc. stuff whenever it shows up. I just think that was a huge mistake to bring that into the New 52. They should have just let Morrison do his own thing with that. And every opportunity that they're given to sort of just pretend like it never happened in the New 52, they bring it up again, and it drives me nuts. But overall, I thought this one was okay. It was just a weird one, especially because of the art.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as its own kind of little standalone story, I actually think it's one of, if not the best of them so far, just because all of the subplots that don't really have a whole lot to do with each other are thematically related, and that's something this book hasn't done a lot of. And I always tend to appreciate that, because there's something linking this stuff together. I don't feel like I'm reading a different comic book every time I turn the page, and it gets my wheels turning. I'm a character guy. Some of this is just a taste thing, just what I like. I like seeing different characters dealing with different situations where each of them is kind of like a reflection of the other in some way or another, to A, tie it all together, and B, kind of show us the ways in which people are the same but they're different. And seeing like if you compare somebody's choice to another person's choice in a similar situation, it tells you more about both of those people, because you get to see the other directions that different people with different experiences would have taken. So I like that this book is doing that in this issue, in comparing, say, Batgirl to Spoiler, to different characters. But Batgirl is still not the same Batgirl Gail Simone is writing. That is still a problem.
Yeah, agreed. This book has done this a little bit, as far as like actually having a theme goes, and I like that whenever that happens, because it makes it feel like a real story.
Yeah. Actually, the fact that I felt the need to spell all that out just now probably tells you something about what this book's been like for me. Anyway.
Probably true, yeah.
Well, let's go and move on. And Alex, what other DC books do you have?
I have Batman and Ra's al Ghul, which is, I guess, an interesting team up. I know this was a weird book. I haven't been following this book kind of month to month. Just kind of been picking it up whenever Batman's teamed up with somebody interesting. And I guess I learned a lot here, in that they explained a lot of stuff that I've complained about for a long time with the New 52.
Oh, okay, like what?
In that we learned we learned how Damian is 10 years old, but Batman's only existed for like 5 or 6.
Oh,
Apparently, there's accelerated aging involved in his gestation.
that's
Um,
now, to be fair, that's where I would have gone with it.
yeah, yeah,
Because that is one of the big things that we've all complained about with the whole Batman's whole history happens in 5 years. And for a long time, I mistakenly thought that there was some rapid aging in that process in anyway. Like even pre-52, I thought that was happening, and it turned out it wasn't. So, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Okay.
yeah. It's the simplest explanation that they could have come up with, and maybe that's a good thing rather than making it more complex. We also learned that Lazarus pits all kind of individually work a little bit differently, which is kind of weird, and I don't really like how that muddies the concept. But this is really, really interesting. This is the confrontation between Batman and Ra's al Ghul, and Ra's al Ghul is gonna dunk Talia and Damian into a pit, and if you do that for like 24 hours, it can revive a body that's been dead for less than a year. Then they have a big fight. That's more or less it. Batman and Ra's al Ghul fight, and then the end of this is kind of a literal Deus Ex Machina in a weird way, and I won't say more than that, and it's completely unexpected. I don't know if we've seen this character yet in the New 52. We've seen other characters in that same wheelhouse in the New 52, and I'm really curious how this ties in. I've seen some solicits and some advertisements for what's coming next, and I have an idea, which is really weird and a really weird way to make the story go. It's just really, really bizarre and unexpected and just odd. But I'm intrigued enough that I might keep reading this. It was just kind of so crazy that I'm gonna check it out next time. But yeah, I don't know. This is just a weird book. I don't know what to say besides that.
I almost read that this week because that seemed like an interesting team up, and I was wondering what they were doing with Ra's al Ghul in the in 52 right now. So I don't know. But then I thought, oh well, Alex is probably taking care of that. And I have enough books this week anyway. My only other DC thing from this week was Scribblenauts Unmasked #6, which is an all ages book that I'm reading because I really like. If you haven't heard me talk about this, because I really like the video game, and I really enjoy all ages books. Really clever. Like kind of light kids stuff, and I mean all ages doesn't mean kids, it means anybody can read it. This is a kids book, but it is a kids book that has a whole lot of references and stuff that if you've been reading comics for your whole life and you're my age, you're going to get when your kids don't get it, and that's a lot of the reason. So this is for everybody, and I love stuff like that. Anyway, so where we're at with this book right now is that the whole Justice League got sucked into the Phantom Zone, and our hero Maxwell had to get them out, and he had to get them out by making them feel something again. Because the Phantom Zone like sucks out your whole will to live and your personality, so you had to remind all these characters about why they want to still be alive in order to come out of the Phantom Zone. And seeing how he does that with each of them is kind of fun. But there's this amusing moment because a bunch of villains got sucked in too, and there was this amusing moment where it seemed like maybe he was going to have to pull all the villains out that way also, and then they didn't go there, and I kind of wish they had, because one of the villains that they sent there was Doomsday, and I really wanted to see how they were going to do that with Doomsday. But then that didn't happen. Anyway, there is this really fun, huge 2-page spread where they crammed as many different characters as possible inside the Fortress of Solitude, and it's awesome.
Jeez.
And what's kind of fun about this, and I really wish this book would do more of this, especially because of the game it's based on, and especially because this is a book and a video game all about using your imagination. What that page is Maxwell is missing somewhere in the Fortress of Solitude, and before you can move on, you are supposed to find him like Where's Waldo. So they do this kind of like this kind of like trying to interact with the reader thing, and I wish they'd do a lot more of that. I think that's really cool. And so what you do is you look at the page, and then if you don't find him, you turn to the next page, and they zoom in and you see where he was. So that if you go back again, you're like, oh, that's where he was. Okay. But anyway, I thought that was kind of fun. And then they're gearing up for this big fight with the Anti-Monitor. And this is a book that crams as many characters as humanly possible into a book at once. it's warranted, and it makes sense that they're using them all, and there are a lot of just kind of fun cameos. So like, yes, I'm actually going to compare this to Original Sin right now. What this book does that makes that work is that you've got the few characters that you're really focused on, and then everybody else just kind of pops in and out. But it's this huge, giant, fighting this very apocalyptic kind of force, and so it makes sense that they're all there, and they all have distinct voices, but you never get bogged down with too many characters, even though there's like 50 or more. So anyway, and also it needs to do that because the video game did that. It's the whole idea. Part of the idea of the video game was, let's test your DC knowledge and see how many characters you can come up with to solve problems. So this book is using all those characters. But anyway, so yeah, if you are not reading enough fun, silly, all ages stuff, and you're looking for something, read that, and pick it up at any issue, because even though it's an ongoing story, it's pretty readable anywhere. Your turn.
Awesome. I'm going to go with Batwoman number 32, and this is a book I dropped a long time ago, and then I picked up for the annual, and I was like, it's not the worst thing ever. It wrapped up the story that they had started before, which was not good, but at least I got a conclusion to it. This is, I guess, going in a new direction. Batwoman is interesting in that she kind of occupies that more occult and supernatural side of Gotham City, which I like, and it kind of justifies the book's existence, that it's not just the same thing as every other Batman book. Nocturna shows up in this. This is the first time that she's been in the New 52. It's the first time we've seen her in a long time. Vampire Lady. Seems appropriate for this book. I don't really know kind of what's going on somewhat with character stuff and where characters are, because I know Maggie Sawyer and Kate Kane were going to get married, and then DC said, no, people aren't allowed to be married. But they're still engaged, I guess. The woman that Kate used to date back when she was at West Point, comes back and they meet, and there's some kind of awkward interaction there. I still don't have any idea about the Nocturna plot. I don't know if this started in the previous issue or what. But this wasn't terrible. I thought the writing was pretty decent, and Kate Kane as a character felt like Kate Kane. And all of her kind of internal monologue stuff was really kind of witty and sarcastic and in response to everything else that people said in this issue, and I thought that was a lot of fun. The art is okay. The art on the cover is very different from the art in the book, but I like both styles. I wish the art on the cover was the art in the book, though, because I think it's perfectly suited to Batwoman. Other than that, I was just kind of, as I'm sure you can tell, a little bit lost with this issue, but I didn't think it was terrible.
The next book I've got is, so I'm out of DC now. I'm going to do my one dark horse for this week. This is Buffy the Vampire Slayer number 4. This book is just absolutely hilarious right now, because we've got Dracula trying to rewrite the Book of Magic to be whatever he wants it to be, which is just fantastic. So with the new rules, and that's what this arc is called, new rules, that have happened with the magical universe, everything's different now. The rules of vampires are totally different. We've got vampires that are more powerful than Dracula now, and they can do all kinds of stuff he could never do. And that fateful book that Giles hands to Buffy all the way back at the beginning of the series is blank now. And as time goes on, pages seem to be filling in to describe what the new rules are. And Dracula gets this crazy idea in his head to start writing in it and see if he can make his own rules come true, and they do. And so there's Gage manages to get a lot of mileage out of this joke, because he'll do things like Spike's ready to go fight Dracula but then every time he talks about him, he starts saying things like, "I'm gonna go beat the crap out of my liege" or something, and it's fantastic because Dracula makes it so that all the vampires worship him, even though some of them want to kill him, and so it's really funny. As you can imagine, because it's like, what could possibly go wrong? As you can imagine, there are huge repercussions for Dracula trying to rewrite the rules of the universe in this book. And it's great. It's all kinds of fun. Where Buffy is right now, I'm seeing things that I wish we could have seen on television, which is probably the highest praise I can give this book, because there are a lot of places when I'm reading this where I go, this is kind of cool, but it's taken me out a little bit because they never either would have gone quite as far as you're going in the show, or they wouldn't have had the means to do it. And I don't mean that this has to look like a TV budget, but like sometimes it's just too big for this world. It kind of feels like, I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but sometimes sometimes in my brain I'm reading this and I'm just sort of like, I don't know, it seems a little bit too crazy and out there, too comic book, and it's not right now. And it seems to, and they're also drawing a lot more from TV show source material now than from the last couple seasons in the comics, and I really like that. So there's also this really great running gag of Dark Willow being a trope, where people keep saying, "Oh, just whatever you do, make sure that you don't go all Dark Willow." And then Willow's like, "Oh, I'm a trope now." And then a couple pages before the end of the issue, she accidentally uses the trope. It's fantastic. So this is some really great Whedon-esque writing in this. Nicholas Brendan is still helping Christos Gage with this whole thing, because there's a whole lot of Xander going on with the Dracula plot, and he's really good, and I hope that they use him again. Anyway, okay, what else? Do you have more DC, or are we going someplace else?
Yeah, I have 2 more DC books. I can sum them up both in a single sentence, and that's People Fight. And really, that was Justice League 2.0 number 22 and Wonder Woman number 32. That's more or less it. People Fight.
Okay.
I did. There's maybe a little bit. I don't really have anything more to say about Wonder Woman other than that. Yeah, people do fight. It's kind of cool. The story is wrapping up. Justice League Beyond 2.0. God, this title is so long. Number 22. There's some cool stuff for Mr. Miracle in this, in that the good guys have been captured, and there's no way to escape, but he's, of course, the greatest escape artist, and there's, like, an evil version of his wife. And I won't say more than that, but, like, he uses her and kind of seduces her and and allows them all to escape, and it's really, really well done. And then at the end of this, the Zod kid, who had showed up before and has been missing for several issues, shows up again, and we get a revelation about kind of who he is. Or I guess we sort of figured that out a couple issues ago, but the characters who it's actually relevant to figure that out at the end. This is, of course, a digital first book, so it's like only 15 pages or so. Really, really quick and fast-paced, and a lot of fighting.
There's a Zod kid?
Yeah, so he's just named Zod, and this is, I don't know, this is weird, because it's like, this book is supposedly in continuity with the DC animated universe, which didn't use Zod, they used Jax-Ur. But also it's in continuity with, I guess, the previous version of the DCU, and I don't get how that makes sense, but because Zod was in there. But I guess to maybe say what it is, because I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, and they did reveal this previously. In the Justice Lords universe, our Wonder Woman and Evil Superman were both like the king and queen of that world, and they didn't get along at all, but they decided to unify things. They were going to have an heir, and they did some genetic blah blah blah, so they didn't have to bump uglies, and they created this child, and they were sort of warring over this child and who gets to influence him and whatnot. And Wonder Woman stashed him in the Phantom Zone, and that's where we originally met this character. And I guess we thought he was Jax-Ur's son, but evidently he wasn't his biological son.
That's really strange that they're not just doing Zod. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's really weird, and I don't know if the name will make sense later, or if this is just a weird that's a name that we didn't use in the DCAU, so we're going to throw it in here kind of thing. But I guess we'll see. I'm really liking the story still in this big event, and we're getting towards the end, and I'm really, really excited to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note that Zod is the surname, not the given name.
Yeah.
They could have made it a lot less awkward by just naming him Drew, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, all right. Next up, I got some IDW stuff, and real briefly, I'm going to start with Powerpuff Girls number 10, which I can sum up with: there's fighting and music. That's this issue. The last couple issues of this book are about a big feud. That's all about people's tastes in music, and you have the Powerpuff Girls who like boy bands, and you have this I forget his name. You have this one villain who is all obsessed with disco. He's been in the show before, and then you have the Rowdy Rough Boys who are all obsessed with like a grungy type music, and they all kind of go to a big war over what music they like, and they're trying to have their music be the only music there is. The way this ends is absolutely hysterical in how they all finally kind of make peace at the end. It's really funny. They basically all find a kind of music at the end that they like together, and it's pretty funny. And then there's this whole section where everybody gets transformed into hippies. And that's really funny. But anyway, yeah, it's great. The art is fantastic in this, and we've got a big giant mech robot whose head is a disco ball, and that's awesome. And he fights a big giant mech robot that's a big Viking guy. And you find out that the big boy band that we were introduced to last issue are actually aliens from another planet who are glam rockers on that planet, and they have a big Viking mech robot, and it's great. It's hilarious. So that
sounds like it might be the best thing ever. I need to pick up that issue.
Yeah, everybody needs to read Powerpuff Girls. This book is so good right now. Anyway, it's funny.
Awesome. My last book was from Image. It was the Manhattan Project number 21. I only just kind of skimmed this one because I'm at the point where this is a Hickman book, and I love this book. It's really, really good, but it's nigh impossible to follow month to month. And so it's just given that this is a book that's all about Matt's Cold War and space race and stuff, Laika, who, if you know your history, was the dog that the Soviets threw up into space, is the main character of this issue. And apparently the dog is sapient and had gone off in a previous issue on some type of space mission and runs into aliens in this. There's kind of a Babelfish type bit in this where there's some sort of weird thing. In this, it's like something that you eat, and it's like a parasite, and it affects your brain, and that's how they translate things. And the dog gets sprayed with some type of alien juice or something that turns it into like a dog woman, which was weird. It's like a werewolf, but it's like a dog instead of like a wolf. It's like a were-dog, I guess. And that's more or less what I picked up from it because I just skimmed this, but
Alex, that's what alien juice does. Don't you know? Like, that's what it does.
I guess I'm just not an expert in extraterrestrial juice.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's delicious.
Oh, I'll take your word for it. I don't know what it would transform me into since I'm already a person. I'll maybe steer clear of that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. This is a really good book. I really enjoy it. It's just I would not recommend reading it month to month. It's definitely a trade book.
There is something decidedly Space Ghost Coast to Coast about the bit we just did. Okay. All right. So was that it? Was that all your books? Do you have more stuff?
That was it.
Oh, really? I thought you said you had 12 books. Maybe I had more than 12.
I did. I covered Wonder Woman with a single line, though.
Oh,
so.
that's true. Okay, all right. Well, I have a couple more things. So I'll do my couple more things. Before I do my couple more things, I want to remind everybody that here in a little bit we're going to do the open forum. And if you're watching live, it means you can participate. And if you're not watching live, it means you can watch what other people asked us. Feel free to leave a question in the Q&A. It's open. I remember to open it this time, and people have already asked some questions. You can do that too. You can also send us a tweet, or you can send us a message at Geekvolution on YouTube. Start doing that. Send us some stuff, and we'll talk to you for a few minutes as soon as I'm finished talking about IDW books, the rest of my IDW books. I'm going to first talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 35, which brings back Slash. And I love this cover, by the way. This is just a creepy, gruesome cover. I really like it. What we've got going on, God, lots of stuff going on in Turtles right now. And let me just say that this still continues to be maybe the book I get most excited about reading every time it comes out. And I feel like I just got this a couple weeks ago, so I'm excited that it's out again. So basically, this is the big theme running through this is. Are people able to change? It's a very nature versus nurture thing. It's people that have kind of shown their true colors. Can we ever turn them around? And I really like all the different facets of that were all the different kind of layers of that idea that we're getting in this, because you have Han, who is, I think, decidedly not able to change or not willing to change, and then you have and then you have Old Hob, who is kind of up in the air, where Michelangelo really believes in him. I really like this whole thing. Michelangelo is like, no, he's done some nice things for us in the past, and even though he tried to kill us a whole bunch of times before that, maybe he's changed now. And then he's working. Old Hob is working with Slash, and Michelangelo goes to get their help with something and walks in on Old Hob, who has tied up a girl who used to work at StockGen in order to help him make an army of mutants. And Michelangelo is all like, "Oh, this can't be as bad as it seems," and I just think that's hilarious. So, and then the other big character that we're dealing with of can they change or not is Slash. And this gets very interesting by the time you get to the end of this, because he is the character. He is the one character who, despite his tiny, puny mutant brain, and thinking that he is just kind of a monster character that doesn't really have a whole lot of free will of his own, he is the one character who makes a very surprising choice at the end of this. And I really like that. I don't want to give away where it goes by the end, but they do a thing that they did with Slash in the original cartoon, and they do it in a really sophisticated way, and I was so jazzed to see it. It's the last thing I expected. I should have seen it coming, and I didn't, and I love that feeling. Anyway, what a good book. I have other things to say about it, but I'm going to move on. I need to do a long review of the most recent issues of that at some point, because it's just really, really good stuff. Anyway, the next thing is also a Turtles book. There's another mini going on right now, which is Ninja Turtles Turtles in Time #1. This is same continuity, but more cartoony in the art and also in the storytelling, and it works. It's fitting in okay, but it is so far kind of throwaway. And I haven't said that about a lot of these side Ninja Turtle stuff. Most of them you really kind of want for the rest of it. So far, this seems to be a very interlude sort of story. Now, it's not done yet, so it might end up, like a lot of these things have done, informing something major. And given that they're going through time and doing some different history stuff, I would not be surprised if we don't learn something hugely, importantly major, especially if we end up going to feudal Japan, which it looks like we're likely to do at the end of this. And remember that in this version of the Turtles, the Splinter and the Turtles are actually reincarnated from people who were in feudal Japan. So if they don't go there, I would be very surprised. So now that I'm thinking about it, this probably is not going to ultimately end up being a throwaway story. But it starts off in a place that sort of feels that way, and they get thrown back to what is either prehistory. At first, you don't know. It's either prehistory or it's a planet that looks like prehistoric Earth, but the Utroms are there, and the Utroms capture Raphael, and the Turtles have to rescue him. And it's a very typical story, but it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not really going to say anything else about it, but I am highly recommending it. It's a different team. It's people that I don't think have worked on this before. let's see who is working on this. Paul Allor with art by Ross Campbell. And at first, I wasn't even sure if this was the present IDW Turtles continuity or if this was from the cartoon show, because like sometimes the art, they sort of look like the new cartoon Turtles, but it's actually it actually really is this stuff. So in case you wondered if this was like an all ages kids book or something, it isn't that. And also the character that mysteriously ends up sending them back in time apparently is going to appear in the annual for this year that hasn't come out yet. And it sounds like they did this on purpose because it's a time travel thing. So the opener, when you read the opening thing that tells you, that sets this up, it's like this is based on, or like the Turtles get thrown back in time in the annual. Oh, you haven't read that yet? That's because it hasn't come out. And I'm like, that's hilarious. He has that time scepter thing from Ninja Turtles 3. And they are using Ninja Turtles 3 stuff in this. And then, which I was like, wow, okay. And then you get to the end, and they show you what is probably the cover, if not just a splash page for the next issue, and they're wearing those costumes from Ninja Turtles 3, and it looks like they're going to do a feudal Japan thing, which I'm really kind of stoked about because, like I said, I think we're likely to get some major revelations. The last thing I'd like to review this week is also from IDW, and something that, Alex, you need to be reading. This is the City on the Edge of Forever Harlan Ellison original teleplay book. And this is really cool. So if you don't know anything about the history of City, I'll briefly mention this. So what happened was Harlan Ellison, back in the 60s, wrote a episode for Star Trek, which ended up being City on the Edge of Forever, which ended up being a lot of people's fan favorite. And also won a lot of awards. It won a Hugo, and I think it might have even won an Emmy. I don't remember. But anyway, it's the one where they go back in time, and Kirk has to, spoiler alert, let a woman he falls in love with die so that the time stream doesn't get all screwed up and wonky. And that kind of is the big establishing thing for the Star Trek universe of the way they do their time travel is you can change things in the past, and time is malleable. Well, his original teleplay was very different from what they ultimately ended up filming, and of course a whole lot of original series scripts are that way. I'm actually reading a book right now that chronicles the first season, and they're going to do books for the rest of it, that goes through every single episode and every single minute script change that happened. It's tedious, but it's very interesting. And anyway, so City on the Edge of Forever, the script that he originally published has been published in a book that is decades out of print, and people have read it, and people have forever wanted to see something done with it. And IDW is finally, for a while, Ellison didn't want to let them do this. He's finally agreed, and we're getting to see this in a visual form. Of course, just in a comic book. So I'll mention some of the major differences. What gets the crew to the down to the planet to go through the Guardian of Forever in the first place is totally different. It has nothing to do with McCoy injecting himself. What it is in this version is there's this. It's really kind of twisted, actually. There's this crew member aboard ship that is only in Starfleet in order to pay his bills, and he hates being in Starfleet, and he just wants to be rich. And what he does is he gets people addicted to this essentially a drug it's like the space drug. It's like these gems that you swallow and they sing to you, and then you get addicted to them. And he gets like a crew member addicted to this stuff, and he keeps like charging him for more, and so he wants to go down to the planet that he thinks has this huge population on it in order to get a bunch of people addicted to this thing and get rich. And that's the catalyst for the whole thing. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. The Guardian Forever is entirely different. It's not a talking gateway. It's a bunch of old guys that look sort of like the floating heads from Superman 2 inside of the Guardian, and there really is a city, and it still is vibrant and working and stuff. And I was like, oh, there's actually a reason it's called that. Okay. Anyway, there's a lot of differences. It's really cool from a historical perspective, but it's also really good story still. It's weird reading it clipped like this. I do wish I had it all in front of me. You know what I mean? Because I pretty much just get the setup. The first issue is pretty much up to. It's pretty much, you know, the teaser, and they go through the gateway. What happens? So I mean, you know, 10 minutes is about all you get. The art is great. It's J.K. Woodward, who was the guy who drew the Doctor Who TNG crossover, and I didn't love his art in that, but I love his art in this. I think this photorealistic stuff works really well for this. And like the faces are photorealistic, but it's fully painted, so there's also this kind of stylistic thing to it too. Anyway, I'm gushing over this, but it's really, really good. It's kind of, you know, the same treatment as the Star Wars thing, where it's you take a first draft of a thing, and then I'm sure that wasn't a first draft, but you know what I mean, the original version of the screenplay, and then you realize it in comic book form. I love that we're doing this kind of thing now, and I also really appreciate that IDW is doing some original series stuff, and that we're not only doing movie things right now. It's really neat of them to give us stuff like that. So anyway, Alex, read that because it's great.
Yeah, I knew about most of that stuff that was in the original Harlan Ellison script, especially the drugs thing. That's something I always hear about, and I'll definitely be curious to check that out, because I've never read the original script, but I know some of the changes, and
yeah,
I would love to see how it plays out. How many issues is it?
I'm not sure, actually. It didn't tell me in the issue, and I haven't gone looking. What's nice though is that if you read the comic, if you get all the issues and read the comic, you are reading the entire script. They've left nothing out, and they've added nothing. It's word for word. So that's good.
Cool.
Anyway, so right now we're going to go ahead and jump into our open forum for this week. We're going to talk to you for a few minutes, and I'm going to start looking at questions right now. I've got a few things. Here we go. Let's see. What do we got here? Alex Rolfe, are you both as excited as I am to see Miles Morales as one of the all-new X-Men in issue 32? Huh? Huh? This is happening? I didn't hear about this. Did you hear about this?
News to me.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess the answer to that is more flabbergasted than excited again. Is this? And feel free to comment again and tell me. Is this like 616 Miles Morales? Are they finally going to show us what that guy is? Because or is this Ultimate somehow? Because keep in mind that at the end of Spider-Man, Peter Parker is looking up Miles Morales. And it's been well over a year, and maybe more than that, and we still don't know what that was about. So I would be interested to know what that is. But maybe he's a mutant. Yeah. So anyway, I'd like to know. That's really interesting. Cullen Millette on Twitter, will you review Infinity War and/or Infinity Crusade? Eventually, probably. I'm going to start getting back to regular comic vaults at least by next year, if not before that. I'm not going to promise anything before the beginning of next year, but there will be some stuff here and there randomly. As soon as I get done with Spawn Year, I'm going to have my plate opened up a lot more to do more things like that, and then as soon as I'm finished with Midwestern panels, I'm really going to have more time to do daily vaults, and that's what I want to eventually get back to. So to answer your question, yeah, eventually. Obviously, I've never even reviewed Infinity Gauntlet, so you need to do that first. Let me mention right now, because I'm sure folks will be interested to hear about this, what I'm going to do with Vault when I finally get back to it regularly. I made a giant game show wheel for an event I hosted last month and or the beginning of this month, and I'm going to use that on Vault. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it with different categories and titles and things. And at the beginning of every show, I'm going to spin this wheel, and that's going to decide what sort of thing I review that day. And so a lot of what I review is going to be decided by this wheel, which I think is kind of going to be a fun format. So anyway, I may even let people throw out requests and occasionally put different requests in the wheel, and what's in the wheel will change all the time. So anyway, just so you know, lots of different things are going to get reviewed, and thanks for asking about that. Who is this? Optimus Klein, if you could have a comic made into a TV show, what would it be? You know, at this point, answering that question gets wiggy because it feels like anything is possible.
Mm-hmm. I would rather Gotham Central be adapted than this Gotham show.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm still excited about it. I think it looks cool, but it looks potentially I don't want to use the word lame, but it looks like one of those things where it's gonna keep kind of like teasing us with what we'd rather have, you know, and you're just like, oh, just make it Gotham Central, you know. I don't care if Batman ever shows up in it, like.
Yeah. Well, that's just the thing. Is that's my problem with the show is if they're able to fight crime in Gotham with any level of success, then that completely undermines the need for Batman in Gotham.
Yeah, and then
if they don't, undoes itself.
And if they don't, then every single character seems entirely incompetent, and we ought to have a cop death every single episode.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. But I don't know, other sorts of things. I mean, I guess I would just have to kind of sit here and spitball. What other sorts of? Because like I said, I keep feeling like anything I might come up with could end up happening. I would love to see Birds of Prey revisited. That was a show I liked, but a concept that could have been done better, and I think is still very TV worthy. And I always thought that was a really good kind of compromise for, well, we can't put Batman on TV, but let's use these other characters that people really like. But man, I gotta tell you, a lot of the stuff that I wanted to see, we're getting now. I mean, we're getting
Daredevil on Netflix.
We're getting Daredevil. I can't. I'm having a hard time like dreaming anymore after I got Arrow and I got that, and you know, I mean, maybe a proper Superman show again. Because Superman was always a TV staple. Smallville is done. Having a show like Lois and Clark, where we put it back in the suit, but is not as silly, could be a nice thing to have. But I don't know. Like I said, these days with superhero stuff, it's harder for me to dream because so many of my
so much
have come true. Yeah,
you solely live action here. Because
when you get an animation, we could go. Yeah.
I would love to see like a Wonder Woman animated series that's like this fun kind of all ages action adventure mythology kind of a thing. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and like her and Steve Trevor team up and like go around the world and fight minotaurs and stuff.
I still want to see the frickin' Spawn animation finally actually come to TV because they've had all the dialogue in the can for 8 years or more, and I kind of want to finally get to see that thing. But yeah, I think I've said this before. Somebody asked me about this the other day. I think Spider-Man 2099 would make a fantastic animated show.
Yeah, they did something similar with that. What was it, Spider-Man Unlimited? But that was terrible.
Yeah, no, they didn't though, because I mean, like clearly they were thinking that a little bit, but it's still Peter Parker from the past brought into the future. You know, it's still. I mean, it's Spider-Man set in the future, but it's a totally different thing. Like I want to see a Miguel O'Hara, you know, show, but yeah, I don't know. We're doing so much stuff with with what we used to think of as minor characters these days that I feel like down the road all kinds of things are possible. I think a question show could totally work.
Oh, that would be great.
And I think a question show could work in animation or live action. I could kind of see it either way, really.
I would love that because you can play up the kind of noir angle with it and the conspiracy thing, which is big right now. You have sort of the journalism element with what he does as his day job. That would just be perfect. I think that'd be great for like a Netflix style show too, because you could like get the whole conspiracy and binge watch it at once.
Yeah. I'm going to say two more things, going more kid stuff. First of all, the Tick needs to come back because the Tick only ever really worked for people. I mean, I like the comics okay. It's a little weirder and didn't catch on with people as much as the TV shows did. I really think that there's still room to go back and do more Tick. And Townsend Coleman is still working. We could get the same voice actor again. Secondly, Tiny Titans the cartoon. That should happen.
Absolutely.
That would be really fun. do a very like a show that looks like it's geared for 6-year-olds but has a whole lot of stuff for us too. That needs to happen, and that would be a really good Cartoon Network staple, I think.
Oh, definitely. I love to see them take that JLA, was that JLA Adventures Trapped in Time movie and spin that off into a show, because that was a lot of fun.
I bought it and I still haven't gotten around to watching it.
Oh,
yeah,
me too. It's perfect.
I only ever watch stuff for review. I need to do that. Okay. I mean, I should have reviewed it when it came out, but anyway, Magpie wants to know if Who Reviews the Reviewers is still coming back in September. That is the plan right now, at the risk of adding another crazy thing to my plate that I'm not going to have time for. I should be done with Spawn Year by then, knock on wood, but I should be done with it by then. So, yeah, I really want to. There are all kinds of crazy logistical things to figure out with Who Reviews the Reviewers, but yes, we are planning on bringing that back, because there's great reviewers out there that need to be discovered. So that's what we want to do with that. What else? What else, Alex? Looking at this, I sometimes have a hard time telling who's asking questions. Okay, Avengers 5412. Do either of you watch Game of Thrones? I still have not watched that show.
I do. It's great.
Oh, you do? Okay. All my friends tell me that it's wonderful storytelling, but that I would hate it. That's what all my friends tell me.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, you agree with that, do you?
Sort of. Yeah.
Okay.
I can see how you could like it, and I can see how, it wouldn't be your thing too. It's very violent, and there's a lot of sex in it that's just kind of there to make expositionary scenes interesting. So there's a lot of scenes that are just like people explain things, but there's sex going on in the background. So like it's exciting. Yeah.
So, but something that will surprise some people is that I watched Rome despite that and kind of enjoyed that show, and it had...
I think you could like it then, because it's pretty comparable to Rome.
And you can't tell me it's any worse than Rome was in the sex department, because that show...
A little bit. Not too much, but it's definitely in that ballpark.
Wow. I mean, it seems to me like you would have to label yourself a pornography before you could get
HBO. So
no, I know that. So was Paul.
Yeah, that's true. True.
Oh, this is a good one. William Purcell, sorry, we're getting quite a few things coming in. Thanks, folks. Appreciate the questions. William Purcell, do you think Feige will ever be willing to kill off any of the main Avengers, or could we just see a shift in roles, maybe seeing Rogers become director of S.H.I.E.L.D., allowing Bucky to replace him in the field? Yeah, me and Vince did Vince and I, English major, did a GNN a few months ago, a few weeks ago, I forget when. We did a GNN about this very thing of actors getting older and then how they might be written out of the Avengers movies. And I'm of a couple minds about it. I said in that video that I thought it would be really interesting if they allowed main characters to actually die, because you could do because this would be a really good opportunity to get away from the gimmicky comic book thing of, yeah, we kill people, but they always come back. Having said that, we've already done it with Coulson, so there's precedent even in this continuity now. On the other hand, I would be sort of surprised if they did that. Without having some kind of game plan. I think Rogers, I think Captain America, it would be more likely they'll do exactly what you're saying. That whenever he decides he doesn't want to do that role anymore, they kick him upstairs and he occasionally makes cameos. I think if anybody's going to actually get killed off, it's Iron Man before anybody.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. And I don't know. I don't really want to see it, but it's something they're going to have to do, and it makes more sense and maybe has more story possibilities besides just recasting.
But I'm fine with recasting. I think that's a realistic expectation.
They've done it before, so...
Yeah. First of all, there's already precedent with less important characters, even in the continuity we're talking about. But also, I mean, like, people just get older and don't look the part of superheroes that don't age. On the other hand, we are doing a continuity that has kind of come out in various places and told us exactly what time period we're in, which is something that comics will sometimes do, but they cheat a lot with it. I kind of think that it might not be a bad idea to let the movies happen in real time and let characters age. So I'm very mixed on this.
Yeah, I am too. I could see it going both ways and working both ways, and also not working both ways.
Robotters 100. Hey, Captain Logan, was wondering, with Zero Year wrapping up shortly, do you have a direction you want the Batman title to go in? And finally got to check this out live again. Thanks for being here. Boy, I haven't given that any thought at all. Snyder is really good at kind of surprising me with what his next choice is for, direction and stuff. I don't know. I mean, I think it would be fun to see him do another story, sort of like Black Mirror, that goes in more of a darker horror direction, because he's really good at that. But there's always a lot of kind of dark in whatever stories he's telling anyway. So yeah, I don't know.
I know Snyder said that he wants to tell another Joker story where the Joker comes back and this time isn't in love with Batman, but actually really hates Batman. So we get to see like an angry Joker and more the Harlequin of hate aspect of the character. I think that could be really cool, but I'm not ready to see a Joker story again anytime soon.
I gotta say, I have found it actually kind of relaxing to go a really long time without anybody being allowed to do a Joker story, which maybe sounds weird, but Joker is always a fallback character, and it's a character that like every Batman writer wants to get to do their version of, and it's kind of nice to, theoretically, I'm not saying this is exactly what's happening with 52, but it's nice to theoretically force writers to try other things and be creative. This would have been a really good opportunity to invent some new villains, and I don't think we've done enough of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because most of the villains that we've seen in the New 52 that are new haven't been particularly great. I'm just trying to think of some off the top of my head. There was that. Was that guy in the original run of Detective, was he, new?
Who are you talking about? I don't even know. I didn't read that.
I don't even remember what he's called. That's the thing, is, they're not even memorable.
Well, you know what I've always said, and I think now's the best time to do this, because, I mean, I said this way before Batman 66 was even announced. Now that we're doing 66, there are a couple of characters in 60s Batman that have never been done serious that could be absolutely frightening if you did them right. And I'm thinking about people like King Tut and stuff like that. I really think that there's a couple of 60s Batman characters that we could bring in, reinvent, make them absolutely mortifying. That's a thing I'd like to eventually see.
Yeah, I agree. King Tut is a big favorite of mine. They did bring him into the comics proper in Batman Confidential a long time ago.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It was so-so. It didn't really impress me all that much, but it was nice to see. And I would like to see him and Egghead and Louis the Lilac and all these characters.
Is that every every idea I ever come up with for Batman, I always find out that somebody else did it already, because there's always a bunch of Batman stories happening at once. We have 80 years of continuity almost, so 75 years of continuity. So yeah, wow, boy. This is me thinking I was cool for thinking of that. Somebody else already did it. One of the things with that character that I always thought was, nobody will ever do him because he's too much like Maxie Zeus. And then somebody did it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that would be an interesting story in itself, is those two villains go to war or something.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. It's no, you're not actually Zeus. No, you're not actually King Tut. What else have we got here? This is another William Parcell question. Have either of you read the Watchmen prequel comics, and if so, what were your thoughts? Yeah, I gave it a shot. I read 2 or 3 of the miniseries when they started. I was reading the Minutemen one, and there were, I'm trying to remember, Night Owl I read. I think I liked the Minutemen one more than I liked anything, but I never finished any of them. I read the first issue of Rorschach and didn't like it. it didn't. The whole idea didn't work for me, and I wanted to like it. I didn't want to be one of these people that was like, no, you can't touch Watchmen. I mean, I did sort of feel that way, like a lot of other people did, but I wanted to give it a chance because I thought, well, you could flesh some stuff out, and then if I love it, but even if it contradicts the other thing, I could just look at it as its kind of own thing of, wouldn't it be cool if we knew more about this stuff. The problem I kept having with everything I was reading was that it kept giving us information we had already from the book and acting like it was new. Like, if you know that book as well as I do, too much of what we were given as, like, isn't this cool fill-in stuff, was stuff that was already in the book. It didn't work for me, and like, there were a lot of voice problems. There was a lot of tone issue. I don't know. I couldn't make it. I couldn't make myself okay with it.
Oh, I read all of it, actually.
You really? All of it?
Yeah, all of it. I was just so curious about it. Like, I was like you. I was like, I don't think this is a good idea. But I decided to check it all out. Some of it was really, really good. Ozymandias was incredible.
It wasn't? I didn't read that one. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really good. Because that's he's the villain of the piece, and we get some explanation for kind of his thought process, but this really fleshed it out. Len Wein wrote it, so
yeah,
it's good. Minutemen was very good. Silk Spectre I liked. Dr. Manhattan was pretty good. Night Owl I thought was not so great. And Rorschach was terrible. And that's funny because that was the one that everybody was looking forward to because it's Azzarello and Bermejo.
Yeah, and they're always good. I mean, that's one of my favorite teams ever.
It was just awful. That was by far the worst one.
Okay, so the stuff that... Well, this is very interesting, though. The stuff that you really liked, besides Minutemen, and I think the only reason I quit reading Minutemen was because I had lost the enthusiasm for it because of the other stuff I was reading. It sounds like the stuff that you really liked, I didn't even give a try, and the stuff that I thought was awful, you also thought was awful. Maybe I'll go back and give a couple things a try. That's really interesting.
Minutemen got a lot better as it went on, too.
Yeah,
because it revealed some things, and it did fill in some of the gaps and things that they reference with the whole relationship between Hooded Justice and Captain Metropolis, I think was his name. They kind of filled in that there. There's a dollar bill, like one shot that was actually kind of interesting. There was
they gave dollar bill. Shot? Wow. See, part of my thing, too, was I just thought there was too much of it. Like, I thought they went crazy with the number of them that they did. But if they were good, they were good,
Yeah, and that's the thing, is, like, if you're going to do it, maybe going overboard is kind of the way to do it, because it is Watchmen, it's a pretty big deal. And there is a lot of stuff to that universe. They did build a whole really extensive universe in just 12 issues that we didn't get to see all of it. There was, what's his name, Moloch.
Yeah.
I think it was
one shot, or was it 2 issues?
Yeah, I think it was 2 issues, and that tied into the Ozymandias stuff a little bit. Okay. And it was kind of decent. I don't know, the Darwin Cook stuff, everything. There was a lot of really good stuff. The JMS stuff was kind of in the middle, and then like the Azzarello Bermejo one was just awful. So I would recommend some of it, but yeah, other stuff is pretty passable.
You know what? Based on what you just said, I'm going to go back and try some of it again. Because I sampled it and didn't like enough of what I read, but I wanted to, so maybe I'll give it a shot. I know they put all that stuff out in like giant hardcovers and stuff, but I may look down the issues because that's usually what I do. Let's see here. Emo Kid 64 on Twitter. Have any of you two made comics yourselves, either writing or drawing? I have written a couple comics. I have not gotten them drawn yet, and I don't draw. I had somebody recently that was going to help me with a book, and it's kind of fallen through. I mean, we might end up. I haven't talked to the guy in months. I've just been busy with other things, and he hasn't contacted me, so that might still be happening. But anyway, so to answer your question on my end, I've written stuff, but I haven't gotten anything going yet. And considering I'm making a movie and trying to finish a web series, that's one of the big things that's next on my list. But it'll be a while. It'll be a little while.
Hmm. I'm working on some pretty big fanfic projects just kind of in my spare time, both Batman and Star Trek related, which will be comics at some point. But it's kind of like on the lower end of my list of priorities, since obviously it is fanfic and it's not gonna like make me money or anything. So, but it's a lot of fun. I like writing stuff.
Yeah, I can't get excited about making fanfic either. You know, occasionally you come up with ideas, and you know, if you have a whole lot of spare time, it's a fun thing to just do for yourself. But when you're when you're me and you're making a lot of things for other people to look at, it's hard not to just put that stuff on the back burner. I have that Power Rangers project that I still really want to do, and I've had a lot of requests now to at least make a video outlining it. I think I have finally decided I'm going to commit to at least letting you guys know what I was thinking about. And if any writer, or if any artist rather, happens to watch that video and say, hey, I can do a really mean looking Lord Zed, then I might consider finally writing it. But I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Robert Emmett, are you excited about rumors of Blue Beetle appearing in season 3 of Arrow? I am now. I hadn't heard about that, but yeah, that sounds. It sounds fun. It also sounds inevitable. That doesn't even remotely surprise me.
Yeah, I know. I'm more or less excited depending on which version of the character it is. Because I'm definitely a Ted Kord guy. So.
Well, given that we've had so many references to Kord Industries, that's probably where they'd go with it.
Yeah, that's what I imagine.
And that series tends to like to go to the earliest versions of things, and sometimes mix them with other things. But like usually, whoever was that character first, that's what they like to try to do. It seems like so far.
Well, Ted Kord is technically like the second version, but nobody cares about the first version of Blue Beetle, so.
I didn't even know that, so yeah, clearly I'm that.
Exactly. Point made.
Yeah, good job, way to go. Let's see. What's your? You know what? Let me get past. William Parcell always asks lots of stuff. And we might answer more of your questions, but I want to see if anybody else has some stuff first. Lydia Cerebros, have you read any Buffy season 8 or 9? Yes, here and there. And I'm reading 10 right now because it's coming out right now, and I kind of dropped off at 9, and before that I sort of dropped off at 8. So I've read the beginning of each of them, which is ridiculous. Yes, I am planning on going back and finishing them. I love what I read at 9. I was mediocre on 8. Except for, I mean, it was okay, but I felt like they were really feeling out how to do that in comic book form, and I feel like they really got it solid in 9. What I really liked in 8 was the Faith stuff. There's a trade. I was reading those in trade. There's I think 4 issues that's one big Buffy Faith story that is absolutely masterful. Then 9, I was liking Angel and Faith more than I was liking Buffy, but I liked what I read of Buffy also. So anyway, yeah, the thing is alive and well in comics. I'm really happy that it's still around, and it's good. And it's funny because there's a lot of, like, right now there's a lot of references to things that are happening currently, and it seems to be a little bit ambiguous as to what year it's set in these days, because there was a Breaking Bad reference in the last issue, and I was like, I just don't feel like enough time could have possibly passed in these books where you would be making a Heisenberg reference, but okay. Anyway.
That's funny.
Have you read any of that stuff, Alex?
No, I haven't seen Buffy, so.
You've never seen Buffy? I didn't know that. Okay.
It'd be way over my head.
Yeah. So every time I talk about that, you're like, I have no idea what he's talking about.
I know character names.
Timur Mugo wants to know what we think about Ant-Man being a superhero heist film. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm, as I'm sure a lot of people, kind of trepidatious about that movie now that we've lost the director, and I'm a little freaked out about, Marvel saying things like, "Oh, your character's not heroic enough," because I haven't read the script. I don't know. They might have a point, or it might be the sort of thing where they just don't get the project and they're afraid that it's not in the general formulaic grain. But the thing is, their stuff hasn't always been super formulaic. You know what I mean? Like, Winter Soldier, I thought pushed a lot of boundaries. So I'm kind of, I don't know, man. I'm a little worried about it. Especially because we don't even have a director right now. So I don't know. I don't think. I don't know. I'm a little worried about it. Conceptually, I think it sounds really exciting, and I love that they're taking chances on characters that you never thought you'd see movies of.
Ditto, pretty much for me. I agree with all that.
I'm sorry, Alex. I'm talking too much. What else? I'm just looking for other questions. Let's see here. Let's see. Favorite live action and animated Batman excluding Kevin Conroy. Mine is Michael Keaton and Will Arnett. I don't know about animated if I can't say Kevin Conroy naturally. Live action, it's always been a toss-up for me between Michael Keaton and Val Kilmer because, Batman Forever is not the greatest thing in the world, but I always thought Val Kilmer could make a really fantastic Batman. What do you think, Alex?
You wouldn't say Bale?
Well, yes, but not favorite. You know what I mean? Like, favorite is different from best performance. Like I don't know. It's hard to pit those up against each other because the movie versions of Batman in the 90s informed my fandom way too much, so I have a really hard time saying, oh, I like Christian Bale more than Michael Keaton, or really even Val Kilmer. I don't know. I have a really tough time with that. For me, those movies are like a totally different thing. I almost see it as like two different parts of my life, or almost two different lives, where there's like the kid Batman me, and then like the more grown up version of me. So I get more giddy about the more earlier stuff for I don't know, just for nostalgic reasons, I guess. So I don't know. I have a tough time with that.
Yeah. No, I get you. I get what you mean. And I definitely do understand favorite and best are often two very different things. I really don't like either of the Burton movies, so I'm just gonna say Bale. He's my favorite live action. As far as voice goes, besides Kevin Conroy, I have to say Jeremy Sisto, because I loved him in New Frontier, and I want to see a 1930s or 40s Batman movie with him doing the voice, because I just think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I love that performance too. I guess if I had to pick another animated one, I'd go Bruce Greenwood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's really
solid. Good. He's solid. And anybody named Bruce that gets to voice Batman that's awesome. King called Godzilla 2001. What are your favorite crossovers in comic book history? Now, when we say crossovers, are we talking inter-company crossovers? Are we talking, just characters meeting each other? I don't know. I don't know that I have a favorite. I'm trying to think. I mean, I was like Amalgam more than anybody else I've ever met, but I'm trying to think. I might have to come back to that. The Spider-Man Superman thing from the '80s is I think it's early '80s is really fun.
I don't know. As a general rule, I don't care for crossovers, so I don't really have a favorite.
Well, that's totally fair, Alex. I also like the Star Trek X-Men crossover, but the original series one over the TNG one. The TNG one was weird because it was called Second Contact, and it happens immediately after First Contact, and it's really fun. Let's see what else. Let's see if we've got some more tweets here. We'll answer one or two more questions. Akeem Robinson, do you think the new Power Rangers movie will be PG-13? Do you think they will change to the colors around to be more PC? That's a really good, second part of that question is a really good question. Given that they're going with the original 5, And they might put. I would be very surprised if they didn't put Tommy in there. But we've at least been we've been told at least so far that the plan is to go with the first, not just the first incarnation, but those characters. Or at least that's what I've read. Yeah, will they have the same colors, or will people read that as being too racist? That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. But PG-13 almost certainly. Even if it's aimed at kids and isn't risque in any sort of way or not too super ultra violent, we don't seem to be able to make superhero movies that are PG. It just doesn't happen. I think it'll be PG-13. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't at this point.
Interesting. I'm not a big Power Rangers guy. I don't think I've seen that show since I was 5, 6. So. No
well, I'm gonna make you watch some because that'll be hilarious. Let's see. I'll answer this one too. Colin Millette, any interest in the AVGN movie? I have to say, yeah, actually. Despite the fact that that show gets kind of gross and stuff, I actually really kind of enjoy some of it. Yeah, and it's finally coming out, and I've been following Rolf's posts and things about his movie. I've been very interested in that project, and it's finally gonna come out at the end of this year. He's doing some showings all over the country, and none of them are in the Midwest, so I'm not gonna get to see it before it comes out on DVD, which is sort of annoying, unless he finally gets one out. But yeah, if one comes a couple hours close to me, I'm definitely gonna go. Anything else? Optimus Klein wants to know if we saw Edge of Tomorrow. I've not seen that yet. I haven't been able to get to the movie theater this week.
I haven't seen it yet either, but I'm really curious too because it actually looks good. It's like Starship Troopers meets Groundhog Day, or like Cause and Effect.
Cause and Effect.
I'm
That's
down.
Exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about it too. I mean, like it's one of those things where it could be really fun, or it could be really dull and tedious. Just depending. But I'm hearing good things about it, and I like Tom Cruise sometimes.
It's based off a manga called All You Need Is Kill. So
Really?
it can't be bad.
That's a great title. I'm in love with
Yeah,
that.
I don't know why they didn't go with that. That sounds way more interesting than Edge of Tomorrow. It just sounds kind of generic.
It sounds like the kind of title you get when Hollywood is trying to be sort of descriptive and make a title that it thinks that a mass audience will actually go to, because they probably took one look at that title and said, that sounds like a Grindhouse movie. So.
Yeah, that's probably true. It's the kind of thing that would maybe fly in Japan, but not the West.
Yeah, unless I don't think in this country you could get away with that title unless it was obviously a really quirky, absurd piece.
That's probably true.
And what they made was not that, clearly. So.
Yeah, manga has very different conventions.
Yeah.
So that's probably why.
Well, anyway, that concludes our show. I want to say thanks to everybody, as always, for watching. Alex, thanks for joining me. I'm sorry there were more questions for me that you didn't have answers to.
That's okay. Next time, people. Next time.
Anyway, we will be back with you again next week with more new comic reviews, and gonna have lots more Spawn Year coming up for you, and lots more of other fun videos. If you haven't seen it yet, put out a video yesterday of Vince doing his Christopher Walken impression as the cast of Breaking Bad. So check that out because Vince is hilarious. And I want to say thanks as always to Elite Comics in Overland Park, Kansas, for helping us out with the show. Thanks to them. We really appreciate them. They're fantastic, and they're going to be featured in the Midwestern panels. I had a really great interview just last week with William from that show, from that store. So anyway, look forward to the movie, guys. It's going to be really cool, and getting stuff together for that. Anyway, we shall bid you adieu right this very moment. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Alex.
Happy reading.